Hello everybody and welcome back to Gardens and Crystals with me, Wesley Peterson, and today I have been out raiding the rack again and I have come home with two beautiful plants once again, and plants that I've really wanted for a while, plants I've been searching for, and plants I have finally found just the way I want them to be. Now the first plant I want to bring forth and show you is the beautiful little example I have here. This is the beautiful Philodendron Birkin, and I'm just going to bring it in so you can get a real good close look at it. Now look at this little beauty I found here. Look at those beautiful leaves on this Philodendron Birkin with those lovely white stripes in the dark green and the very light, almost white stems, light green and dark green. And depending on how the light shines, it shimmers between lighter greens and whites and the dark greens. And it's an absolutely beautiful philodendron that I've been looking for a while and hadn't found. And then all of a sudden, it was there. And the good thing about this is, this plant has actually plummeted in price. It was going for extortionate amounts of money when it started coming out on the market, and all of a sudden you can get them like I did today. For example, this is Swedish krona, 165 Swedish krona for this beautiful, beautiful, healthy example of a Philodendron Birkin, and it has lots of leaves. The new younger leaves that are coming in are beautiful and white fenestrated, and it is just amazing. If you look at this closer up, I'm going to try and tip it forward. There you go. You can see the whole plant. Beautiful colour going on. Isn't that lovely? And this just reminds me of the same structure of plant as the Philodendron Imperial Green and the Philodendron Rojo Congo and all of these others that are out there. They have the same shape and form. They come up out of the middle and grow bigger and get bigger leaves that come out and look beautiful. And I was so happy that I found this small version so that I have space for it and can fit it in with all my other plants. So that was an absolutely wonderful, beautiful find, and extremely cheap. So I was very happy about that. Now let me get on to the next plant that I am so happy I found. Well, the next plant I found, you can of course see next to me here, this huge, huge plant is a huge, huge example of a Crassula ovata, and I absolutely love this plant because I have a personal kind of affinity with this plant due to certain people in my family, and it always being a part of my family as I grew up as a child and into adulthood, and it's always just had a special place in my heart. I've always tried to have a Crassula ovata around me, but usually you only find them in smaller examples, even though they grow quite quick, so you could easily get yourself a plant like this in a good 5-10 years. No. But when I was out in this garden centre and I saw this plant in this size with huge, thick, mature stems, lots of stems coming out, lots of leaves, and it is flowering. Well, it's just finishing flowering, but it still has a few white flowers on it. Absolutely beautiful. It's green, it's healthy, it's happy. And well, I just had to get this plant. So I'm going to bring it in forward a little bit so you can get a closer look. I will have to pan around with the camera after so you can get an even better look because it's too heavy for me to stand and carry. It's very heavy. So let's bring it forward into the picture. Oh, but I need to have space for me too somewhere. So this monster, my beautiful new Crassula ovata, which is also known commonly as the Jade Plant or the money tree, And well, you can see these look like small pockets of money all over the tree, and also you can see the jade colour in the tree, and it is just an absolutely beautiful plant. This plant, it's very important that you have it growing in a bright, sunny spot. It loves lots of light because it is a succulent and it needs the light to keep it happy and healthy and growing in a situation like this. This was in a greenhouse, a large greenhouse, and well, this plant was getting plenty of sun and plenty of warmth at the same time. Of course, this greenhouse wasn't direct light because, you know, it's got this kind of matted glass, so the plant is getting maximum light without the burning sunlight. But this plant can take being in bright light, and if you want your plant to grow out like this, the best thing to do is put it outside during the summer months when it's really warmed up. So not in the beginning of spring, but late spring, early summer. You can put this plant out for a couple of months and give it a chance to really get the full effect of the sun and grow out even more before you bring it in for the winter months again. But if you're taking it outside from indoors and it's been in a lower light situation or indirect light, please make sure that you don't put it directly somewhere where it's going to get burning hot sun on it, because you will burn the leaves. The plant needs time to acclimatize and readjust its leaves to be able to take a higher content of sunlight. So put it outside in an area where it's getting dappled light or bright indirect light, and then you can slowly but surely work it up so that the plant can be placed somewhere where there's much more bright light, or just sunlight for a few hours of the day and then in a more shady situation. So I'm really thinking I'm going to do that with this plant, because this plant is otherwise going to be living in our bathroom at Crystal Cottage, because that is a room that is bright light. We get light most of the afternoon because it's a west facing window, but then we have in the summer tall trees that filter out the light. So this will get lovely, bright, direct light filtered through, and it's going to be absolutely perfect for the plant. But as I said, I'm going to try and have this plant outside nearly all summer and then bring it in and put it in the bathroom for the winter months where it will get the bright light still there. And if you can see here, look at these lovely small white flowers on this plant. It is very hard to get a Crassula ovata to flower in your home unless the conditions are absolutely perfect, and that means very bright indirect light and in a situation where it's been allowed to cool down during the winter months and slowly warm up again as the spring season comes around, so that it gets this stressed period, and then these flowers will just come out. But it does need the bright light to be able to maintain this. So you probably will never get this if you have your plant in a lower light situation indoors. Keep it happy is a good way to do that, is make sure that you spray off these leaves and, you know, keep them healthy and dust free. And I was told by the man in the garden centre that the way he gets these plants to grow out thick and bushy like this is every other year he goes in and prunes all the outer stems to keep the plant compact, to get the plant to grow leaves on the outer sides of the stems. And also, he said this encourages the stems of the actual plant to grow thicker and thicker and thicker every year. Because if it's allowed to just keep growing upwards, it will grow up more long and thin in an artificial situation of being stuck in a pot and maybe not in the right light conditions or temperature conditions to keep it growing the way that it would in the wild. So this has been very well looked after. I mean, some of these trunks in this plant are really huge, and I'm going to take you in now to give you a closer look at those, because it really is worth seeing the stems, the bushiness of all the leaves up here, and then these flowers while they're on this plant, because this might be my first and last time seeing flowers on this plant, depending on how this plant acclimatizes to where I'm going to be putting it at Crystal Cottage. So let's go in for a closer look. So here you can see the lovely top part of this beautiful Crassula ovata, the canopy, and these lovely small white flowers that are on the plant right now. I was so lucky that I found this plant at the right time when it was flowering, just about to go out of its flowering season. And well, as I said, it's quite rare to see this, so I am hoping that this plant, because it's a mature plant,
maybe will flower for me again in the future. We'll see. But as we go down, you can see these big, beautiful stems. They're very thick, and there are quite a few different stems in this one pot here. Looks really, really beautiful. And I'm going to do as the guy said, every other year, go in and prune back in this plant, which means I'll be able to take lots of cuttings, of course, and make lots of new plants. But we'll see how that goes, because I really don't want to ruin the shape of this plant at the same time. It looks like a very beautiful bonsai type of tree. It looks like a miniature kind of oak tree canopy, you know, this big round kind of ball, and I just want to keep that shape. And now here you can see some of the wonderful tiny white flowers that come out on this plant. They're very beautiful, very dainty, and look at them, they're like little stars. I just love them against the beautiful jade coloured background. And that name Jade also reminds me of my sister, who's also called Jade, so isn't that wonderful?
I really hope you enjoyed seeing this plant closer up. And as I said at the beginning of the video, this plant is quite sentimental for me because my big nanny, as we used to call her, my mother's mother, my big nanny, she always used to have one of these plants. She always had a jade plant, and it used to be on the floor by her patio door so it would get the bright direct light. And it grew absolutely wonderfully. And she had one of these plants for the longest time. And it's something that always reminds me of her. She's no longer with us. She passed on 30 years ago. But this plant always reminds me of my big nanny. And it's one of the two plants she used to have that I remember. She had one of these Crassula ovata, and she also had a Schlumbergera, which is a Christmas cactus, and I remember she had one of those too. So those two plants always remind me of my nanny, but this one reminds me a lot of her. And it also reminds me of my mummy, because my mum has also had this plant sitting down by her patio doors, and has carried on the tradition of having this plant in the family. And it just reminds me of my nanny and my mummy an awful lot. And I'm very happy. And it's very nice when you have plants that have some kind of connection to your past and happy memories. Plants, they hold a lot of energy, and you know, just being around plants, just seeing the green is so good for you psychologically, for your mind, and for your energy. And then when you have these wonderful memories that come into it as well, oh, it's just an extra boost of positive, lovely energy. So this is my mummy and nanny plant that I will always have around me. And well, I've been looking for a huge example like this because I really want to have a statement piece that I can look at and have all these lovely memories flood back into my mind of the good old days. So now I've actually found one. And if I should hold my arms out, I mean, well, you can see I can't even get my arm actually around this plant. I can't get my arm around this plant. This was the perfect size for our bathroom. It's just going to take up the whole sideboard, and it's just going to love it there. I know it. I do have two smaller examples of this. As I said, I've always had these around, so I have two smaller examples. One is a rescue plant that is doing quite well, and one is a much smaller, tighter, compact example of this same plant that I have in my kitchen. So who knows, maybe those will be finding new homes at some point. So I couldn't be happier. And I know my nanny is looking down from heaven, and she will be so happy to see that I have this big wonderful plant, and I'm thinking of her. And I live in Sweden and my mummy lives in England, so I know she'll be happy to see this video and see that I'm thinking about her every time I look at this wonderful plant. And the fact that I love plants and I can put some of my memories into these plants, because I do the same with crystals. I collect crystals and I collect rocks and stones and things from different places I've been. And when I look at those rocks, my memories come flooding back to me. They're like my diaries. I don't have to write a book as a diary. My diary is in my mind when I have certain things that bring forth my wonderful memories. And this plant, oh, it brings back some wonderful memories, that's for sure. I'm so glad I found it, and it's just the perfect size. It's just, yeah, it's going to be in a lovely white pot. And I can't wait to get it at Crystal Cottage, and I will show you later on this plant in its new position. So that's all I have for you for this Raiding the Rack video today. This beautiful Philodendron Birkin that I came home with, a beautiful small example, and my beautiful Crassula ovata that I am overjoyed that I have found at last in a big size like this. So, thank you very much once again for watching Gardens and Crystals with me, Wesley Peterson. Please remember to like, subscribe and hit the bell so you know when my next video will be uploaded, and I will see you again very, very soon. Goodbye.